What happens when your body is both the subject and the instrument of your art, and your life becomes the canvas? Welcome to I Love Your Stories. I'm your host, Hava Gurevich, and today I'm joined by Andrea Cote, a multidisciplinary artist and educator based in Eastern Long Island. Andrea works across printmaking, sculpture, video, and performance. She shares how early collaborations with other women artists sparked her creativity and how the spirit of connection still shapes her work today. We talk about the evolution of her teaching, how modeling for other artists transformed her perspective, and how motherhood shifted her art and sense of purpose. From solo studio practices to community based projects, Andrea's story is a reminder that creativity can be both deeply personal and deeply shared. Now, quick word from our sponsor, and then we'll get right back to the show. When I started selling my art, I had absolutely no idea how to actually turn it into a business, a professional business. And then I came across art storefronts, and that was a game changer. I've been a customer now for years, and they've been instrumental every step of the way of helping me succeed. I have a gorgeous, powerful commerce website. I have marketing tools and a membership to a community that is very supportive and teaches me how to succeed as an artist. Check them out, artstorefronts.com, and tell them Hala sent you. Welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is an amazing artist and a really good friend, Andrea Cote. Um, Andrea, welcome to the show. And would you like to just kind of tell us a little bit about your background as an artist?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on here, Hava. It's great to see you again. Um, yeah, so my background as an art, I think a good place that I often think about starting is when I really started to find myself, the seeds of who I became as an artist. I think were when I was in the last years of my undergrad, actually, in Miami at FIU, and I was preparing we were preparing for our show, and I was working on a project. I started off as a painter and was doing a lot of portraits, and that led into me doing my grandfather, and then I focused on his hands, and then next thing I knew, I was casting his hands, and then I was casting family and friends and professors and everybody who, had touched me in some way. And then while simultaneously while I'm doing that, I'm getting to know my fellow students, and especially a group of women and I started we're talking about as we prepared for this final show,
Casting, I'm sorry, casting as in sculpture, as making.
yeah, I was using cheesecloth and plaster, and I would drape it across the hands, and then you often over conversations and dinner, and then I would flip them over, and I would press cheesecloth inside and put a little more plaster, so they were like these little shrouds that were a little relief-like. Yeah, and then at the same time, it was all that what goes into making art, and so I was talking to a bunch of, my friends, and we're hanging out, and we're all making our work and talking as you do, and, so we ended up making together, we decided to make this giant cabinet, this oversized cabinet that would hold, all of our process pieces. So everything that like our notebooks, our sketchbooks, our experiments, and we each had a drawer. Everybody made their own drawer. And, it was all made out of found wood, and each drawer was very different depending on the artist and what their process was like, and my drawer was very messy, and it had lots of poetry, both mine and other people's. It had all these little strange experiments and materials, and it was and that kinda I think that opened up that both collaborating, and open up the process of what goes into ultimately making whatever is shown later as a work. I think I really started, like, living in that process was really important to me.
I feel like you are so fortunate that you had this group of women artists that you were going through undergrad with, had so much synergy.
Yeah, yeah, and we were from all over. I mean, there was a lot of women from, like, all of South America, Peru, Mexico, and it was really a group of and it was the early '90s. Yeah, it was, like, 1993, I wanna say. Yeah, and so it was a time where, we had all these male professors that were like, "What are you doing?"
So that was undergrad. Did you go to grad school right after that? Like,
No, no, I moved to Seattle. And, I knew I wanted to teach right away, so I started putting up flyers around town and started teaching right away. And then I was also working as an artist model, and it was interesting because I worked for a lot of artists and a lot of classrooms, and I would become like this, the fly on the wall, the naked person in the room who's kind of invisible at the same time. And I learned how to teach really well, through doing that. And then also I was questioning, I saw other people portraying me and what I looked like. I was thinking, "Well, how would I portray myself
wow.
in a way?" Yeah, and then I started experimenting with painting with my body, painting with my feet and my hair and my ears and my nose.
It's really fascinating, the modeling, but also what were you teaching at the time? Were you teaching art?
Yeah,
To, like, what level?
2 adults. It was
The
mostly like, something about Seattle, I think is unique, at least at that time. You could just literally put up flyers all over town and be like, "I'm teaching a class at the local community center," and people would show up, and I would teach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was teaching at the University of Washington, had this wonderful program called the Experimental College, and you could just write up your class, and people would come in, and they'd give you a room, and I was in the science building, and I'd drag all my plaster in, and whatever we were gonna do that day, and the first day my model didn't show up, so I actually sat in the middle of the room, and I just took off my shoes, and I put my foot up on the on the chair, and I said, "You're all gonna sculpt my foot," and everybody circled around and I thought, "Oh, that works, that kind of breaks the,
Mm. So, mm, what got you to was that, like, after that, you're like, "Let me take off both shoes off," and then kind of like s like strip poker slowly? But 'cause, like, how do you get to that point where you're like, "I'm just gonna disrobe and have all these people look at me from every angle," and
Well, I didn't do that when I was teaching. When I was teaching, it was my foot, although and that I think that was the very first day I'd ever really taught, so it certainly taught me that you could make your way through it.
yeah.
Anything could happen and I could improvise. Um, and yeah, same thing, I guess the first time I did take my clothes off in a room, I remember there's that heightened sense of like, "Oh my god, I'm naked in front of all these people. They can see every me from every angle." But, I don't know, I guess one of the things that I've learned in my life is that, I was young, I was very shy, and I was very quiet, but I wanted to jump out.
Mm.
And so sometimes I'll just throw myself into these situations and experiences and kind of muddle my way through and learn kind of by accident that it's all okay. It's all part of it.
You knew you wanted to teach,
Mhm.
and, um, and then this experience of being a model, thinking about how others see you, and then from there, really starting to think more about how you see yourself or how you would, um, portray yourself, and then actually using your body, physically using your body to create that, like that's amazing. And so you did go to grad
Yeah,
school.
I ended up going to graduate school, at SUNY Purchase in New York, and guess that was in around that was, like, several years afterwards. I think when I first graduated, I just wanted to, grow. I knew I wasn't ready to I knew actually that at that time, if you wanted to teach, it was thought that that was why you would go get your
Right.
graduate.
Yeah.
And so I thought, "Well, I'll teach, I'll go out there for a little while. I just would go find places that would let me do an installation in their windows or something." I would experiment, and then when I was ready a few years later, I knew I would eventually probably wanna go to grad school because I did enjoy teaching and I wanted to.
And your medium, you did pretty much everything because I know you do printmaking,
Yeah.
sculpture, photography,
I
painting,
did a lot of interviews with video
video,
people and installations, yeah.
and performance. You're just, an equal opportunity artist.
Restless, very restless, yeah, I wanted to I'd have an yeah, I have an urge to try something or a vision, I think, would appear, I'd be like, "I have to do" and I might not have the skills really to do it or the
Mhm.
tech, but I would just
But it sounds like you do it anyway and then figure it out.
yeah, yeah.
Um, if you had to describe, like, what your art is about, I mean, I know, we write dissertations about that, so but just in a few sentences, some, like, highlights. If somebody walks into a room and it has your art on there, what would you want them to come away with? What would you hope that they experience?
Well, I'd hope that they would see themselves, even though I'm often using my own body, but then that's also that it's almost like I experiment on my own body and I
Mhm.
trace it to other people's and invite them in. So I think it's this invitation,
Yeah,
uh, feel or experience something that I've experienced, and visually, because 'cause I'm mainly a visual artist, and this like seeing traces of the body, traces of that of an experience or a lived life.
it's personal because it's your body, but that's sort of what I always get out of it is that
Mhm.
it's about a very kind of like visceral connection to the body. Um, um, you also do so you teach, you still
Mhm.
teach.
Mhm.
Do you still teach adults?
Yeah, I've taught, like, every age over the years in all kinds of situations and, and abilities, and yeah, I mean, I consider myself like an educator of all ages and levels, and I think I was running an education program and developing it at the Watermill Center for many years, and then when I left there a few years ago, I went back to freelancing, but I'm currently teaching at Suffolk Community College. I'm teaching college students, often freshmen or sophomores that are rather young, very young adults, and then I'm doing a visiting artist residency at a school that's I'm gonna be working with middle schoolers, and I just worked with 3rd and 4th graders, and we made this huge project that was about 4 huge banner cyanotypes with,
Oh.
specific elements and their drawings and their bodies in the piece. Yeah, so I enjoy it all.
And you're also really active in community-based projects. Do you wanna talk about that?
Yeah, so, let's see, when I first moved out to Eastern Long Island, and we were living in Flanders, and we were very close to Riverhead, a town that's kind of where the North Fork and the South Fork meet. It's kinda the gateway to, the 2 ends of Long Island, and, yeah, there were empty windows. I had this son who was about 4 or 5 at the time, and I just wanted to get to know my community in a way, I was like, "Okay, this I have roots here
Mhm.
for now." And again, I just kinda had this thought, "Oh, what if I did a project where I got to work with invite people from Riverhead and get to know this town through the people who live here and have worked here and have a connection to here," and it was really just word of mouth, like, "Oh, you should interview this person or that person." So I started making my first video little mini documentaries. Yeah, yeah, and then I photographed people's eyes, and then that was sort of like the entry to the video, and then I was transferring their eyes to these blindfolds that were, like, on fabric, and then that was sort of what you would see throughout the town were these posters of me wearing this person's eyes in front of a site on Main Street that connected to them, and then that was like a portal to discovering more about them through the QR codes, which
Mhm.
stuck
Mhm.
around all this time. Yeah. And those still live actually on YouTube now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Uh,
Um, so what makes you happy? Like, what fulfills you?
I think it's probably very similar. It's when I'm in that flow of,
Mhm.
like, it's coming together, and it doesn't happen really all that often for me, you know? I mean, think you can set up all the conditions for it to happen, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's your studio and you've got a you know, you're at that point where you've sort of had an idea and you're sort of investigating, and then you're kind of swimming around in it, and then next thing you know, you're, like, in that for me, so often it'll happen on the press lately. It's almost like that becomes that performance space for me where I'll have things I'm pressing and inking up colors, and then I have a small press that somebody, um, gave me a number of it's about 150 years old, and it's wonderful, and it's got a big wheel and a small bed, but it's big enough that I can kinda, like, engage with it. It's
Mm.
like this partner of mine, and I can run things through and take 'em out the other end, and just I get kinda lost in that process, and sometimes it's wonderful 'cause it flows, and it does feel like all that struggle to get to where you are at that moment,
Mhm.
like the art gods now have, like, blessed you, and it's when you're in that flow, and it can happen, like, right there in my often I think it does happen more when I'm by myself creating,
Sure.
although sometimes it'll happen with others too. Then I'll take that, "Oh, could I do this with other people?" And then sometimes there'll be these wonderful moments where it will happen. You know, with often in the sometimes it's teaching too, it's like the magic takes hold of everybody, and you
Right.
know you're creating something bigger than what you would do, alone, or even this most recent project that I did in the garden, right, with the natural materials of this garden, and having to collaborate with nature. And when it was over and I thought, "Wow, that was" nature is very frustrating throughout the process 'cause, I was doing these big cyanotypes in the sun, and I'd have to pray for the sun to come out and the rain not to stay away, and it didn't always happen, and wind blowing everything around, and in the end, though, there was this feeling of like, "Wow, it was bigger than what I could have imagined on my it was even still, it was this collaboration or something larger. So do you feel that when you're it doesn't it's not like it happens all the time, you know?
Yeah, and often inspiration strikes, and by the time I get to my studio, I can't find it again.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Absolutely.
and sometimes it comes through while I'm working, like, the muse will come and find you working. I don't remember the expression, but
Yeah.
I actually was doing that today. I was touching up corners of paintings that are going in the exhibition,
Mhm.
and so I mixed some black paint with a little bit of gloss, and I was doing that, and I finished, and I still had some paint, so then I just grabbed the painting, in progress and started doing stuff, and next thing I know, 2 hours have gone by and I'm painting, like, I just suddenly got, like, new inspiration, and, uh,
Uh,
I sometimes forget, but, you know
yeah, what a joy to find that.
yeah, yeah, sometimes, just doing something repetitive like, that muscle memory, and then it's like, "Oh, god, yeah, I love doing this stuff. I love using a little brush and that shiny black paint, and where else can I put that shiny black paint?"
Uh-huh, uh-huh. I know, it's time often too, right? Like, you have to know that, "Okay, I can give myself a little bit of time here to, like, let go," 'cause
Yeah,
often I'm not an artist who finds the time to
yeah,
be in the studio every day, far, far from it. So yeah.
yeah. Can you talk about any, like, times in your life that were sort of like crossroads? Things that really sort of changed the course of of what you were doing. Are there situations like that for you?
Yeah, definitely. When did we first meet when you were out here? Because I think that was like a
I
revel
moved out to the Hamptons in 2009, and I think we met in 2010, 11.
was I pregnant? So I had just had Nathaniel, like, I remember
Just
him
had it.
young, and he
Yeah.
would come over and
Yeah, do you remember, like, we were in that little, the little hot tub section of the pool?
absolutely, I remember that. That's what I remember, bringing him over, and he was a little toddler,
He was
and
little. He was
I
very
felt like he could swim, and I think I was probably very nervous. But yeah, we met.
How did motherhood change you?
Um, yeah, gosh. Uh, well, it was a challenging time for me. We were living in Brooklyn in the city, and then my husband and then he got offered this job out, in Eastern Long Island and Flanders and to serve the Hamptons and so we moved out here and that was yeah, around like 2007, 8. And then I shortly got pregnant and we just moved out here. I was very alone. I was very solitary. It was very difficult. There wasn't now there's a very vibrant arts community here, but it was still a time when, there wasn't a lot of at least I didn't know a lot of
Mhm.
well, I think since then and now there's more arts events and things, and there's more than you can, At the time, it was just a very isolating time for me. It was very difficult, and, yeah, and I had a postpartum mania and depression, actually, a year delayed, so it wasn't immediate, but it came on almost to a year to the ti day he was born, and that was very difficult, and that was definitely a crossroads, I was it was a very dark time. I didn't think I would make art again, actually. I kinda and I think we met around then, right?
Mm, yeah. Um, did art play a role in recovery or saving you or
Yeah, I think coming through it, yeah. I think coming out of it and finding myself again,
Mhm.
sure.
I
Um
remember when you set up that beautiful studio, like, in the attic?
Yeah, yeah.
And so you were sort of, like, starting to get back into it, and then you were going to Brooklyn to a doing
Yes, yes,
printing.
that's right. Okay, so we did meet then. Yeah, that was around that time. Yeah, it was yeah. So yeah, I was printing. I think it was the going back and the forth and
Mhm.
that I think threw me into that state. But then definitely, like, when I found myself again, I had to be creating again. I just had to be
Yeah.
that's where I am, that's who I am. But when, the dark place that you go to, you don't know who you are anymore, and it's not a generative place. But, I think that's where family and friends and your community and people lifting you up when you can't get through it yourself, are how you get through it, and then I started yeah, and there was a time where I would be in my studio trying to get back to it, and it was very difficult, to, like that feeling of, like it was very uncomfortable to be in there and telling myself, that I would get through it, and I think anytime and I talked to other people about this, when you haven't been in your studio for a while and you get back in it's not like it's like, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah.
That's not when the music starts usually. It's like you gotta kinda muddle your way back through it. And then you get there eventually through getting acquainted with that making world again.
I find that in times like that, and I've gone through periods where, I may have not been, like, in the best place, mentally, um, and, I would think to myself, like, "I wish I could just, like, turn to art as an escape," and then I would try, and I just wasn't inspired, and it sort of made art it pushed it further away as, like, an
Mhm.
unattainable thing. And so I remember thinking, like, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on my artist self to
Mhm.
be, like, my savior, you know? Um, but
Mhm.
I found when I moved out to the Hamptons, that was a kind of, like, art renaissance for me,
Mhm.
discovering nature, uh, realizing that I'm actually, like, very comfortable being alone for long periods of
Mhm.
time. And, and having and creating work that's more connected, like, more immediately connected to the place where I am, um, and finding community, like, finding artists that I could really relate to. So, that bond that we had, that was, like That was
For
very
one of the people getting me through that time.
yeah, that was very precious. I mean, and it was a, back and forth communication because, getting back into it, sometimes you can just go in and start painting edges and get back into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really need to be around people who are creative and expressive and, like, sort of just have that permission given to you to explore again and get sort of swept up in that energy. Um, and I think that, like, when that happens, and then you have the opportunity to lead that, lead that, and be able to offer that kind of, community,
It's you out of yourself,
yeah.
sure. I think maybe because I often when I am alone, like solitary in the studio or those times in my life when I am just very I can be a very solitary, introspective
Mhm.
person, and on the other hand, when I get out, when I am working with other people or teaching, it's not about me anymore, I'm just this vehicle to, like, help other people.
It all goes back to your, undergraduate,
Yeah,
experience with this group
yeah.
of women artists, and, I'm so inspired by that. Like, when I was an undergrad, I didn't have that kind of, conceptual thinking yet. Some of it comes from community, having people around you who are similar in a way that you find a way to connect.
Yeah, well, I went to Florida International University in Miami, and one of the things that was unique about it was there were, um, students of all ages,
Mhm.
and, it's a very like, it's international, it's
Oh,
Florida
nice.
University,
Yeah.
so, I mean, there were women in the of this group of 8 of us that were, at least 15 years older than me,
Mhm.
so
Oh,
I was
okay.
one of the
Yeah.
yeah, I think I was there was 1 or 2 women who were younger than me, so I was somewhere in the middle, but yeah, there were women that
Oh,
were
wow. So it's almost like you had mentors
yes.
in some way. Maybe not mentors for art, but mentors for being like how to live.
We came from and whatever life experience we had had, and we were discovering this place together.
Mm. That's amazing. What would you say, like, what are you most passionate about right now?
Right now. Um, well, I'm kind of between things right now. I'm teaching, I'm hustling again because there's a lot of loss of funding to the arts and
Yeah.
education, so it's just kinda juggling a lot right now, and I think I'm trying to give myself, even sometimes just half an hour to an hour in the studio just where I'm like, "I don't know what's gonna come out right now, but I need to" like, I don't know what's next, really. So I'm in that place where you're kind of figuring out, "Well, what's next?" You might have a little glimmer of things, but I wanna give myself that time to kind of experiment.
Does
Uh,
do you find that state exciting or stressful? Or both?
yeah, I guess a little of both, right? It seems like you were saying that you're touching up the corners, getting ready for a show, and at the same time, you're s you know, start is experimenting, starting something new. I think often there's a lot of that overlap, right?
There
Like,
is.
I have
Yeah.
a show in a few weeks, and so now I'm starting to think, "Well, what would I show?" So I have to kinda pull some work out and think about that, and then, get it ready to put up, and at the same time, I'm experimenting really with what might come next, and I'm very excited because I have my first little book. This is what I've been working on for 2
Oh, that's amazing.
now. It was a lot of work to,
Wait, can you hold it up? Higher? It's called
belong to the
Belong
world.
to the World. Oh, it's amazing. So is this a book that people can find? Where can they find this book?
It's yeah, well, this is the proof. So, it'll be on I did it through this, website Blurb,
Okay. So it's
and
self-published.
it'll yeah, it'll be accessible there, And it has an essay it's all a record of the project I did a year ago at Bridge Gardens with the Parish Art Museum. And so it has a curator's forward. There's, I write about the project and the process of that project and getting to know the gardens and how I made the work and how it changed me. And then there's a beautiful essay by Serge Levy, who is a photographer and writer about the work. And then it has all these images of
That's
the
amazing.
project. Yeah.
Congratulations. Oh, that's a huge achievement.
So I just got that this morning, so that's
Oh,
kind of
that is exciting.
yeah, so that was
Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can they find your work? Where can they find more about you?
yeah, well, there's my website, andreacote.com, and then my Instagram is Andrea Cote Art, and, uh and I love to just connect with people, so, on my website, it says, "Contact if you wanna come by the studio, let me know." I do enjoy that. Yeah.
Final question for you, and I feel like you kind of answered it, but how would you define success for you now, and how has it changed over time?
Mm. I mean, success to me is just being able to keep exploring, right? And to be creating, so I don't know that I'm very ambitious as far as like a career goes, except that it's nice to be able like this project wouldn't have come to me if somebody hadn't invited me to do a project that then opened up a whole world and new ideas and new opportunities that I never would have envisioned this project before. So that's exciting. So I don't know that I always, have the visions for different ideas that kind of percolate around, but I think just the opportunities to create and discover new facets of yourself, of your work, of yeah. So I think it's just being able to keep creating.
And
Um,
that's pretty much been consistent for you.
but I don't know. There doesn't feel like because most of the time it just feels like a juggle.
That's life.
But yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Best of luck. Yeah, let's definitely connect and have a chat without it being recorded.
Yes, yes, it's wonderful to connect and explore these being an artist together
Hmm.
journey.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Hava.
Thanks again for tuning in. That's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please help us out by leaving a review, a comment, subscribing, sharing it with your friends. Every little bit helps, and I really appreciate it. And before we go, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor and producer, Art Storefronts. If you've been thinking about turning your art into a real business or just want to level up your online presence, now is honestly the best time, especially with the holiday selling season coming up in Q4. I can't stress this enough. Art Storefronts isn't just a website builder. They're a full-blown partner for your art business. They give you the tools, education, and marketing support to actually make sales, not just sit online and hope. And if you're unsure whether your art will sell, no worries. Just head to artstorefronts.com and sign up for a demo. They'll give you a free art review and a marketing assessment of your art to show you exactly what's possible. So go to artstorefronts.com, tell them Hava sent you, and I'll catch you on the next episode.